Ark of War's most powerful and best kept secret is the strengthened, weakened effect items. Let me show you. On the left, you'll see a commander using only Tier 1 Rangers. On the right, you'll see Tier 11 airships. Place your bets. Oh, he lands a hit, so there's no tier suppression. That's nice. And 0 damage. Watch again. 0 damage. Ready? Here it comes again. 0 damage. Strengthened, weakened effect. That's what we're talking about today. Here we go. Greetings, Commanders! All right, let's get into this. So the Strengthened, Weakened Effect Guide starts with this. There are 2 pieces of wearable gear and a Arc hull that has the Strengthened, Weakened Effect stat. Essentially what this effect does is it gives your natural rock, paper, scissors matchup a larger advantage. If you didn't know that there already was a rock, paper, scissors matchup, here's a quick intro. Infantry is strong against airships. Airships is strong against walkers. Walkers is strong against infantry. See the little logo right there at the top? All right, so walkers advantage over infantry, infantry over airships, and so on and so forth. This is pretty much how it goes all the way from Tier 1 through 8, and you can just expect that matchup stays the same. So if you're using Strengthened, Weakened effect for airships, you are going to have an advantage over walker. If you're using airships and Strengthened, Weakened gear against airships, it will have no effect, at least this portion of the effect. If you're using airships against infantry, Strengthened, Weakened once again will have no effect. It only affects your rock, paper, scissors matchup. But it's such a powerful effect that if you can get your total stats to over 400% and your opponent doesn't have any resistance weakened gear, then you will essentially take their damage from whatever it was to 0%. You know how Roger's defensive stacks makes him take 0%? Strengthened, Weakened at 400% does the same thing. That's the foundation of Strengthened, Weakened effects. So let me reiterate that one more time, and I'm going to try and keep this thing short, and I'm going to try and cut out filler words and phrases like that last one, and just hit it straight home. Rock, paper, scissors matchup benefits from the resistance weakened effect. Benefits from the Strengthened, Weakened effect. If you know your opponent is going to be using that against you, use resistance weakened effect to counter it. For every 2 points, for every 10 points of Strengthened, Weakened effect your opponent uses, you only need to use 6.5% resistance weakened to counter it. If you know they're using Strengthened, Weakened, you will need to use resistance weakened, or don't fight them at all, because they already are going to have an advantage. But if you're going to plant a commander somewhere and invite people to attack you, you need to have some resistance weakened to counter the Strengthened, Weakened marchers. Okay. All right, so that's the foundation. Tier 1 through 8, infantry has an advantage over airship all the way around. Tier 1 has just as much as an advantage over Tier 1 as it does over Tier 8. So in other words, if you're using Rangers versus Chimeras, the advantage for the Strengthened, Weakened effect on infantry, Rangers, against airships, even if it's Tier 7 or Tier 8, will be the same, which makes for really strange-looking matches, like this one. Thanks to Noodles for sending this in. Basically, you have a Strengthened, Weakened walker on the left. Now, it's just using his hoodoo to show the replay that Tier 7, even though it's way higher tier, it will do 0 damage, boom, 0 damage, if you have enough Strengthened, Weakened in the fight. So, this goes on for a while, this goes on for a while. You pretty much get the gist of it, right? I'm sure if you've never seen this, this is a game breaker for you. You realize you're about to change your whole server, because it has come to my attention that still people don't know about this effect. So, this works on Tier 1 against Tier 7. It works against Tier 4 against Tier 5. It works against, Tier 7 down to Tier 1, as long as it's strictly infantry versus strictly airships and it matches up in the rock, paper, scissors matchup, you will get the bonus. Now, I think I've spent enough time talking about the foundation of strength and weakened. That's the easy part. Most of the people that are coming back to this video for the second time, or expert players that are coming to this video for the first time, want to know the exceptions to the rule. That's right, boys and girls, the exceptions to the rule, because Tier 7 or Tier 1 through 8 infantry is only the infantry class, and it only can get a strength and weakened over the airship class. But here's where it gets weird. Tier 9 and 10 are the same infantry airship subclass. So for moving forward, we're going to call Tier 9 and 10 just Tier 9, okay? Tier 11 is different than Tier 9 and 10. So Tier 9 is infantry and also airships. So what happens in this matchup is Tier 9 can still use strength and weaken to its advantage over Tier 1 through 8. Infantry for Tier 9 can still strength and weaken Tier 1 through 8 airships. But Tier 1 through 8 airships cannot strength and weaken Tier 9 walkers. So in other words, Tier 9 acts the same in its rock, paper, scissors matchup against Tier 1 through 8. But the exception to Tier 9 is that it does not strength and weaken itself. In other words, a Tier 9 infantry cannot strength and weaken a Tier 9 airship. It doesn't work that way. Even though it should, it doesn't. People say, oh, it's the subclass because the airship's walker subclass counteracts the infantry's main subclass. Listen. Strength and weaken's weird. That's why not a lot of people have it mastered. Once you go through this video and have the guide for reference, you'll get it. So for Tier 9, advanced troops, infantry can strength and weaken airships from the legacy Tier 1 through 8. But Tier 9 cannot strength and weaken other Tier 9, and Tier 9 does not have a weakness to strength and weaken in Tier 1 through 8. So in other words, no matter what you do, if your opponent has Tier 9 and you don't, even with 400% strength and weakened effect, you can't use legacy troops Tier 1 through 8 to beat your Tier 9 opponent. That's where Tier 9 is really powerful. However, when Tier 11 came out, something special happened. Once again, Tier 11 was susceptible to Tier 1 through 8 legacy strengthened weakened. So before we get into Tier 11, let's do Tier 9 and 10 versus Tier 1 through 8. And in this one, you'll see this is just a standard, no tier suppression, no strengthened weakened. What we want to see here is we want to see Vega trigger a breakdown to show you that he is, in fact, hitting him. Well, he already hit that time, and he does do damage. So there you go, 179 damage. He does do damage to that Galileo. Now, this Galileo is going to put strength and weakened gear on. Boom, right? Got all strength and weakened gear, over 400%. Infantry versus airships, so Tier 9, 10 versus legacy troops. And here comes the breakdown, and it should be 0 damage. There it is. So there's your proof that Tier 9 advanced troops works against legacy troops. Guys, just so you know, yes, I could just say that and move on, but I put the proof in the videos because, unfortunately, I end up coming back to these videos a lot later on when people get in arguments with me. So now there's the proof you wanted. Okay, what else can I show you? All right, so I don't have proof that Tier 9 doesn't work against itself. That's just kind of a known thing. I should probably get proof, but that's just more replays. I don't have proof that Tier 9 can be vulnerable to Tier 1 through 8. They did do a strength and weaken change. That is something that may have changed. If further proof comes out on that, I'll amend this video or make a new one. But, okay, so now we need to talk about Tier 11. And I know I want to just go back and recap. You know what I mean? Like, I want to just say, okay, so here's what we talked about right now. But it is so difficult with Tier 9 because it only acts like a normal strength and weakened against the legacy troops. It acts different to itself. It acts different to Tier 11. Actually, no, that's not true. Tier 9 and 10 will act normally against Tier 11. So a Tier 9 infantry will strengthen weaken a Tier 11 airship. However, a Tier 11 airship cannot strengthen weaken a Tier 9 walker. That's right. I'll let that sink in while I let this next video load up. Okay. Here we go. Tier 9 and 10, strengthened weaken versus Tier 11. So it's walkers versus infantry for those of you that don't recognize the troops. With full strengthened weaken, RCC takes 0 damage from Dakota. Tier 9 walkers have a strengthened weakened advantage over Tier 11 infantry. It works. So that's a normal matchup. I mean, Jesus, this Stella, come on. There you go. So there you go. He beats him down. Now remember, it's still Tier 11, so it does, take a beating. Tier suppression does not affect strengthened weakened. They literally can just zero each other out. One effect does not undo the other effect. All right, now let's get to Tier 11 versus Tier 11. Okay, so the rock, paper, scissors matchup works evenly in Tier 11 as well. Here is infantry versus airships, and you'll see 0 damage. Oh, he missed. Let's try it again. Any minute now. Come on, Stella. There's the proof there. Okay. Now, the exception to Tier 11. This is the special one. Tier 11 can strengthen weaken not only its own class, so airships and airships, it also can strengthen weaken its natural matchup against Legacy. Oh, this is so weird. Okay. All right. Oh, God. I got it all sorted out in my brain, but when I go to say it, man, I understand how weird it sounds. So Tier 11 is a dual class, just like Tier 9 and 10. But Tier 11's dual class is different. Tier 11 can strengthen weakened against, if it's an airship, a Tier 11 airship can have a strengthened weakened full advantage over another airship, that's Tier 1 through 10, but not a Tier 9 and 10 walker. So the natural rock, paper, scissors for Tier 11 against Tier 9 and 10 walker does not work. Tier 9 and 10 can have a strength and weaken advantage over Tier 11 in the natural rock, paper, scissors, but that's the exception with Tier 11. The rock, paper, scissors mechanism for Tier 11 works on itself, but the rock, paper, scissors mechanism does not work against Tier 9 and 10. So Tier 11 can suppress Tier 9 and 10, but it has to use its same class, so airships versus airships. I know that is exactly the truth, and I know that it sounds difficult. And if you want to just stop the video and go back 5 seconds, I don't blame you, because if you hear that and you look at the reference guide that I'm going to share at the bottom of this video, if you look in the description below, there'll be an Imgur link to the SWE guide, and you can look at this stuff again and hopefully run through each section, like say the left-hand side, and then think about it in your head. Say the right-hand side, think about it in your head. We'll go over that at the end. I'll do one more video. So in this video, it's a Lurgo video. Hey, Lurgo, and Free Lollipop from Star. So 2 big-time guild leaders going at it. Now in this video, on the left-hand side, Lurgo is going to be using strength and weaken gear, and he has a Tier 10 infantry. Tier 10 infantry can strengthen weakened Tier 11 airships. So what we're going to see here is that he's going to do good damage. Tier 11 airship goes, and he's going to do 0 damage to the infantry, but he'll hit the other airship. So boom, see that? One more time. He hits the infantry for 0, and then the Tier 11 airships catch the awakening. All right, perfect. That makes sense. Now, Lurgo's on the left-hand side with the Tier 11 airship versus a Tier 10 airship. Tier 11 suppresses itself. Other airships can be suppressed. So what we're going to see here is huge damage, as expected. And this guy will do nothing back. That is literally like the perfect replay to recap Tier 10 versus Tier 11. What it doesn't show is how Tier 11 doesn't get strengthened weakened against its natural matchup. Like if the airships had walkers to attack on the other side, you would see, if the walkers hit the airships, they would hit them just fine. But you know what? That's just going further down this rabbit hole. I think I've simplified it as best as I can. I think I'm going to just throw this video out there, and I'm going to let you guys decide if there's anything else that I missed. So let's see. Where is it? Right there. Here's the guide one more time. There we go. Come on. There we go. All right. So going back to this guide, I want to recap this video in a proper conclusion. Okay. The foundation of strengthened weakened effect is that in the rock, paper, scissors matchup, if you hit 400% strengthened weakened, you will zero out the damage your troops receive from the favored matchup. But also, you will get a tremendous damage increase against your favored matchup. So, it adds a benefit to your troops in the battle. And if you get enough, it makes that your opponent can't do anything. Tier 1 through 8 acts totally normal when it goes to attacking against Tier 1 through 8. It's airships versus airships, infantry versus airships, airships versus walkers, totally normal. The only exceptions to the legacy troops is that they can be strengthened weakened by Tier 9 walkers against infantry, and like the natural matchup, but they can't. The legacy troops, Tier 1 through 8, cannot strengthen weaken the advanced troops. Oh man, I shouldn't say it like that. I hope you know what I mean. Tier 11 suppresses 2 types in Legacy. Tier 11, if it's an airship, will suppress walkers and will also suppress airships. So Tier 11 can suppress its own class and its favored class in the Legacy type. But Tier 11 can also be strengthened weakened by the Legacy type. So that's what the guide is. If you look on the left here, it says Tier 11. Oh boy. This is a great guide. Listen, if you don't have Tier 11, you think this may not apply to you. Listen, if you have Strength and Weakened gear, this certainly does apply to you. Now, don't forget, you can get Strength and Weakened from the Gabriel Hull. It's a lot easier to get 400% now. If your opponent is using Resistance Weakened, the Apocalypse Hull, you need 533% Strength and Weakened to 0 damage out, assuming they don't have any gems or any other gear. Okay, so on the left, it's Tier 11 Air, and the guide says, the legend at the bottom, it's strong against, no effect against, and weak against, right? Strong is green, no effect is gray, red is weak. So Tier 11 airships, Tier 11 Air on the left, has no effect, no strengthened weakened effect on Tier 9 walkers. Tier 11 Air has a benefit or bonus, can strengthen, weaken, whatever you want to call it, against Tier 1 through 8 walkers, like you would expect, and also Tier 11 walkers. Normal matchup there. But then Tier 11 also has a strength and weakened advantage against airships from Tier 1 through 10. And Tier 11 is fully susceptible to all infantry. So if you're a legacy player, if you only have like Tier 7 or Tier 8, and you have a set of strengthened gear and you want to really utilize it, find the enemy that has Tier 11 airships, and you will do fine. All right, and then here's the rest of the guide. I'm not going to go through this one by one. I think that covers the advanced long guide of strength and weaken. I think in the future maybe we will revisit this issue to further break it down if anything comes up, or if people want a shorter explanation. I might just do in tiers, like Tier 11, Tier 10, each individual video, so they're 2 or 3 minute videos. I don't know if people would watch those. If they're watching if you're in a galactic battle though, and you just really need a quick, catch me up on strength and weaken, maybe that would be helpful. So that covers it. I appreciate your guys' patience in letting me get this thing out. It obviously is it's a large body of work, and a lot of high-level players have contributed that information. Those replays were collected for over, a month and a half, 2 months, and putting it all together and proving the facts was, a good body of work there. But all right. Thanks for watching. If you made it this far, I appreciate it. You guys are the true fans that keep this thing going, so thank you. My name is Melt. Remember, peace is bad for business. War.